No compression. There's no compression. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today you're going to see this F30 BMW be sacrificed. Trigger warning. All right, so this is a 2013 F30 328i. It's got a bad motor. We're going to be rebuilding it, and similar to what you've already seen on my channel if you've been following. So here's a sneak peek. This N20 is getting rebuilt if you're following the channel. Now this car, it's got some questionable mods. If you look closely, it's been repainted. Not sure what's going on with the different body colors and whatnot, but this was a good candidate to sacrifice all the electronics out of it. So I don't advocate for part outs. I definitely wouldn't want to part out a car if it could be saved. Even this car has about 150,000 miles. It would still be worth trying to get it back on the road and cleaning it up. But really, we're doing something a little bit cool here. This is not my car, it's my neighbor's car, and he has a Drift 240SX. And we're going to be swapping this entire drivetrain, manual swapping it, trying to gather as much electronics out of the thing as possible to transplant the entire soul of this F30 into a drift car. And the idea is a very light 4-cylinder engine that makes a lot of torque that is relatively small, could be set back in the chassis to make a good balanced platform. So, we're going to try this out. If we fail, then, it's still going to be documented. The way I see it is if you really want to make this thing run, you can make it run outside the car if you just have all the right modules and all the right electronics. We can take literally anything that would prevent this thing from running and move it over to that chassis. We'll start by doing that and eliminating modules that are not necessary for some cool content for you guys. Really, we're sacrificing a car here, but the end goal is to show you how these things are built electronically and to maybe get into some advanced coding trying to disable error codes. Now, if you guys are familiar with these cars, you'll know that they come with electronic power steering, which would have posed a problem trying to swap this whole rack into a drift car. Probably wouldn't have felt that great. Luckily, we have the X1 that exists, and we can take the mounting bracket and power steering pump from one of those and make it fit on an N20, and maybe take the DSC module from that car and make it talk to this DME. I'm not sure. Worst case, if this thing doesn't have any ABS, completely fine. It just would be cool if we could retain as much as possible in terms of functionality. So hopefully you guys are more excited to see the guts of this car go into another car for the sake of content and realizing that this car would have taken too much money and time to make perfect. Blown motor, high mileage, different color panels, that's not wrap, that's paint, doors that have been painted over. And for all we know, this can save another car. Maybe we'll look for a crash car. Maybe a 2016 340i that needs quarter panels and doors and whatnot. But anyway, that's the introduction to this. I'm gonna put it up anyway. If it's gonna be a multi-part series, and if it's a complete failure because of not anticipating a whole bunch of obstacles, regardless, we're gonna do it. In terms of where he'll be at in cost, worst case, these motors are worth $4,000 rebuilt. So he's not gonna be hurting if somehow we have to back out. I anticipate on the first start that we're just gonna have a bucket full of modules and wiring harnesses sitting in the car. All right, I'm gonna call it over to Alex from AS Wraps to talk a little bit more about his car and what his intentions are. If you guys recall, this is Alex from AS Wraps. We collaborated on a wrap video, and this is his 240SX drift car. If you want to talk a little bit about it, we can kind of get a feeler of what you've done so far.
Yeah, first of all, the story of this car, I found it on one of my customers' warehouses when I was doing some work on his car, and he was like, "Oh, you want to look at my collection of the cars?" And he was like some old Indian dude in his 60s, and he had some cool cars in his garage, and then he has a barn outside. And I saw this 240 and I was like, wow, I wish I could have it. And then a few months later I was like, hey, you want to sell it? And he's like, sure. I basically got this whole rolling shelf for $2,800, so it was like a great deal considering nowadays prices. So far what I've done is a full PBM Part Shop Max suspension. I already relocated the subframe myself, just cut it, rewelded it in place, got it the whole engine bay, and we got it repainted. It's a little dusty, but that's actually brand new paint in the engine bay.
Yeah, it looks really clean actually.
Just welded the metal flares to it, so it's about 2 inches wider on here, and that's a rear wide body. That's how it's gonna sit on it. I already pulled out the rear glass, and the rest of the car is gonna get repainted first. And after the paint sets down, I wanna get wrapped, of course.
And this guy's a legit drifter. He's actually met Adam LZ, right? That's
yeah.
Funny enough. But I was talking to him about how I like 4-cylinders that can make big power. And I asked him why he didn't want to put an SR20 in this thing. And then he said, funny enough, this car came with an SR20, but he wasn't a fan of it. I'm like, don't you think there's an advantage in drifting when you have a 4-cylinder tucked up against the firewall? Doesn't that help with balance? And you made it sound like those things are so heavy that there's not much of an advantage over like a 1J swap or something along those lines. So then I was joking with him almost about how small that N20 motor is and how much torque it can make. And it comes on full torque at like 1400 RPM.
Yeah, and I was like, can we make it manual?
Yeah, and I told him it's possible to make it manual, and I told him that, you know, they have the reliability issues, but because of that, you can scoop them up relatively cheap. Yeah. And they only weigh 300 pounds fully loaded with accessories. So then that's why we have that car sitting in my shop right now. We're gonna attempt to stick all the electronics and go as crazy as maybe even sticking the screen on the dash.
Putting cluster in there. Yeah, making basically like a BMW internals.
Yeah. If you took it to the extreme, maybe you could even keep its cruise control, maybe get wireless Apple CarPlay going, just crazy stuff like that, just because we have the whole car as a sacrifice to be able to make this car something interesting. How much would this car weigh once you're done with it?
Like around 25, if I got the interior plus the weight of the engine, which is going to be 200 pounds less than the original engine that was on here.
Yeah.
And yeah, plastic panels, I might do the plastic glass, bumper's going to be the polyurethane.
Polyurethane, yeah. I just pictured this thing being a monster when it's coming out of corners with 300 foot-pounds of torque at 1500 RPM and all that weight shifted toward the back of the car.
Yeah, because we measured the length of the engine to where it would sit, and if you can see this plastic bracket right there, that's where the engine would end. So we still have about about 2 feet of space in there.
And I told him it would look like this car here. This is an S2000, even though it has that brace in the front. Just picture this look where you have a motor shoved way back. These things are naturally good at drifting, right? Because the motor's light.
No, they're good at time attacks. They actually suck at drifting.
Oh, really? What's the reason?
Because the way the rear wheel sits, it's like right under your butt.
Oh, I see.
So it's like
So it's probably scary to drive then, right?
Yeah. Look at the seat.
Yeah.
And look at the wheel. You're literally sitting over the wheel.
Okay, so these in particular are not good at drifting, but the concept of having your weight behind the front axle is a good thing.
Yeah.
No matter how you slice it. I told him that this fender looked like it came off an R33, but he was saying that they're kind of even like genetically related.
That's basically like, yeah, the Silvia S14 is R34, R33 is basically beefed up S14.
Okay, and then you have, that's why these things are such good drift cars, because you have a long wheelbase, right?
Long wheelbase, and they're super stable, yeah, when you put them sideways.
Super stable, but then it's not easy to get a ton of torque to hit at low RPMs unless it's an inline 6, and then these old school inline 6s that people are swapping into here are iron blocks.
Yeah, the 1JZ that I have in my Lexus S300, we're actually gonna show you that one. We're probably gonna do like a ride along in it once I have it back from a tuning.
He promised to give me a genuine scare, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But so the 1J and 2J that you can swap into these cars that's popular weighs about the same as the SR20, because that was a very heavy block.
Not SR20, but the K24 that came in North
stock
American
engine.
cars, yes.
Okay, so the original engine that these cars
Those are
came
500 pounds, the one that came original in this car, and 1JZ is around 600 pounds, I think.
Okay. And what year is this?
95.
95. All right, so there's the introduction to the car. And I figured you guys would be interested because at the end of the day, we're kind of testing our skills in terms of making the electronics work and running into a whole bunch of bugs. In doing so, we're going to figure out how they actually work. Yeah.
And bunch of fabrication, because there is no solution for motor mounts, no solution for transmission mounts, but I have a welder and I have time, so.
Yeah, he already has experience with fabrication. He's done that.
So I don't think there will be a problem. Just gotta figure out the proper, like what motor mount we want to use as a base, and then make plates to it. And from there, I think it'll be pretty straightforward.
Which is not normally an easy ask, but that's your thing. That's what you like to do. Mm-hmm. My thing is I can do the coding.
Yeah, and I can do mechanical.
Yeah, and he can handle the mechanical. So in terms of getting it in here, that wouldn't be the issue. So hopefully you're excited for some different type of content to make the soul of a BMW, an F-Series BMW, run in a drift car. Just because, for all you know, that could be a really cool platform, a really small, tight motor that's light, that makes a lot of torque right off idle. 1400 RPM, you can achieve 300 foot-pounds of torque. That could help you in a drift scenario, assuming that the engine can hold up. We'll see. If this is the first video you're catching of mine, please consider subscribing. If you liked it, please give it a like. So, Rain Car. Thanks for watching.